Rise, my apprentice.
The Battle of Endor in the original timeline represents the culmination of the Rebel Alliance's struggle against the Empire, leading to the destruction of the second Death Star and the fall of Emperor Palpatine. However, Thrawn, a Grand Admiral known for his brilliant strategies and understanding of his enemies, was notably absent from this conflict. In this what-if scenario, we explore how his presence might have altered the course of the battle, and perhaps the war. The Emperor, recognizing that the rebellion is gaining momentum and that the second Death Star is a key point in the war, summons Grand Admiral Thrawn from his missions in the unknown regions to oversee the defense at Endor. Palpatine instructs Thrawn to ensure that the trap set for the rebel fleet goes off without failure. This isn't just about tactics, but about anticipating the unpredictable nature of the rebels, something Thrawn excels at. At first, Thrawn is hesitant to take direct orders from Palpatine. He is not fond of the Emperor's reliance on brute force and overconfidence in the Death Star's might. Thrawn knows that relying solely on the station's firepower and the Emperor's overconfidence in his force abilities is risky, but as a loyal servant of the Empire, he agrees to strategize for the battle. Thrawn analyzes rebel tactics, studying the art and culture of its leaders, including Mon Mothma, Admiral Ackbar, and Luke Skywalker. He realizes that the rebellion's strength comes from its ability to innovate under pressure. Thrawn also assesses Palpatine's arrogance in manipulating the situation at Endor, recognizing that the Emperor's obsession with Luke Skywalker may blind him to more significant threats. As the rebel fleet arrives at Endor, Thrawn is in command of the fleet and prepares a new strategy. While the Emperor intends to let the rebels approach the Death Star as part of his trap, Thrawn positions his own forces to engage the fleet from multiple angles, cutting off their retreat and preventing a quick escape. Instead of waiting for the rebel fleet to be trapped between the Death Star's firepower and the Imperial fleet, Thrawn sets up a pincher formation, planning to reduce the rebel forces significantly before they can even reach the Death Star. Thrawn's tactical brilliance starts to show immediately. Thrawn anticipates the rebel strike on Endor's shield generator and prepares ground reinforcements, ensuring the generator remains operational longer than in the original timeline. He deploys more elite troops to delay or crush the Ewoks and the rebel strike team, hindering their progress. In space, Thrawn refuses to underestimate Admiral Ackbar, seeing the Mon Calamari leader as a worthy opponent. Instead of allowing Ackbar to dictate the terms of engagement, Thrawn creates complex formations and uses hit-and-run tactics with smaller, faster ships to distract and disorient the rebel fleet. Thrawn also accounts for Lando Calrissian's unorthodox flying. By understanding the character of the Millennium Falcon's pilot, Thrawn sets up ambush points in key areas, hoping to neutralize Lando's ship before it can lead the attack on the Death Star. As the battle intensifies, Thrawn communicates his concerns to the Emperor, suggesting that they allow the Death Star to fire selectively instead of waiting for a full power-up. However, Palpatine, confident in his manipulation of Luke Skywalker and the power of the station, ignores Thrawn's advice. Thrawn, unwilling to fully defy the Emperor, proceeds with his own plans while calculating for contingencies. Thrawn realizes the greatest threat is not the fleet or the ground forces, it is the personal conflict between the Emperor and Luke Skywalker in the throne room. This unpredictability could turn the tide of the battle in favor of the rebels, no matter how well the Empire performs tactically. On the forest moon of Endor, the rebel ground forces struggle against the larger Imperial presence due to Thrawn's foresight. Although the Ewoks fight valiantly, their primitive tactics are ultimately ineffective against Thrawn's prepared troops. The shield generator stays operational longer than in the original timeline, buying the Empire time. In space, Thrawn's fleet begins to methodically tear through the rebel ships. Admiral Ackbar realizes that they are facing not just brute force, but a tactician of unparalleled brilliance. With the rebels pinned and suffering heavy losses, they are unable to press their assault on the Death Star effectively. Just as the rebellion seems on the verge of defeat, Luke Skywalker's confrontation with Darth Vader and Palpatine reaches its climax. As in the original timeline, Vader turns on the Emperor, killing him to save his son. But unlike before, Thrawn has already calculated for the potential collapse of Imperial leadership. With Palpatine dead and the battle in his hands, Thrawn assumes full control of the fleet. Realizing that they cannot bring down the shields protecting the Death Star, Lando Calrissian and the remaining rebel forces face an impossible situation. Without the ability to target the Death Star's core reactor, their assault becomes futile. Admiral Ackbar gives the order to retreat, but Thrawn has already cut off their escape routes. Trapped between the Imperial fleet and the Death Star, the rebels suffer massive losses. On the moon's surface, Han and Leia's strike team is forced to fall back after failing to take down the shield generator. With the shield still up and the rebel fleet in disarray, hope begins to fade for the Alliance. As Luke senses the growing despair of the rebel forces outside, the reality of the situation dawns on him. The rebels are trapped, and unless something drastic happens, they will be exterminated. The Emperor may be dead, but Thrawn's military genius is proving to be a greater immediate threat than Palpatine's force powers. Luke realizes that it is up to him to ensure the survival of the rebellion. His first instinct is to flee and regroup, but with the Death Star's shield still operational and the fleet under Thrawn's control tightening the noose, Luke knows there is no escape unless he takes action. In the quiet aftermath of Palpatine and Vader's deaths, Luke feels the guiding presence of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda through the Force. Their voices echo in his mind, reminding him that while he has brought balance to the Force by eliminating the Sith, his journey is not over.
You must save the rebellion, Luke. Force will guide you. The path ahead is yours to walk.
With the guidance of his former mentors, Luke finds clarity. He must act not just as a Jedi, but as a leader of the rebellion. Determined, Luke begins to make his way deeper into the Death Star, navigating the corridors that lead to the station's reactor control systems. Though the station is still under heavy Imperial control, the chaos caused by the Emperor's death has left parts of it vulnerable. Luke knows that disabling the Death Star from within is the only chance to buy the rebels time to escape. Using his knowledge of the first Death Star's design, Luke locates a potential weak point. If he can overload the reactor cooling systems, he can trigger a malfunction that would cripple the station, potentially disabling its weapons and leaving it vulnerable. As Luke moves through the Death Star, he encounters a series of challenges. The station's Imperial troops remain operational despite the Emperor's death. Luke uses his Force abilities to incapacitate them without killing, knowing that any delay could cost the rebels precious time. As he approaches the reactor control room, Luke encounters Thrawn's elite security forces sent by the Admiral to protect the critical systems of the Death Star. These soldiers are highly trained and difficult to outmaneuver, forcing Luke to rely on his mastery of the Force to evade detection and bypass security measures. As Luke infiltrates the reactor controls, the reactor engineers attempt to stop him. Luke uses a combination of persuasion and the Force to convince them that resisting will only lead to the collapse of the Empire under Thrawn's leadership, planting the seeds of doubt within the remaining Imperial personnel. Luke finally reaches the reactor control systems. His plan is to overload the cooling systems, which will disrupt the core functions of the Death Star and prevent it from firing its super laser, thus buying the rebel fleet time to escape. However, Grand Admiral Thrawn has anticipated the possibility of sabotage. Thrawn, having already assumed command after the Emperor's death, realizes that Luke is the only one capable of turning the tide of the battle. Thrawn sends a detachment of elite troopers to stop Luke from completing his sabotage. However, Luke, sensing the danger through the Force, uses his skills to outmaneuver and neutralize the troops before they can reach him. With time running out and the Imperial forces closing in, Luke uses the Force to overload the reactor systems, triggering a series of critical failures within the Death Star. The station begins to shake as alarms blare across the facility. The malfunction causes the super laser to become inoperable, buying the rebels time to regroup and flee. Luke knows that while he hasn't destroyed the Death Star, he has crippled its ability to function as a weapon, giving the rebels a fighting chance. However, his presence has been detected by Thrawn, who quickly orders his remaining forces to capture Luke before he can escape. With the Death Star crippled, the rebel fleet, though badly damaged, seizes the opportunity to retreat. Lando Calrissian, piloting the Millennium Falcon, leads the remaining rebel ships out of Thrawn's carefully laid trap. Though they suffer heavy losses, the rebellion lives to fight another day. Inside the Death Star, Luke races against time to escape. Thrawn, seeing Luke as the biggest threat to his plans, has placed a bounty on him, ordering that Luke be captured alive at all costs. However, through the Force and his quick thinking, Luke manages to steal a shuttle and escape the station just as Thrawn's forces close in. The rebellion, though heavily damaged, survives to fight another day. Grand Admiral Thrawn now leads the Empire, with the Death Star still operational but crippled. Under his leadership, the Empire transitions into a more ruthless, calculated force, intent on crushing the rebellion through strategic precision rather than overwhelming firepower. Luke, now fully aware of his dual responsibility as a Jedi and a leader of the rebellion, must face the reality that the war is far from over. Thrawn's strategic mind proves to be a far greater challenge than the Emperor's brute force, but Luke's victory within the Death Star gives the rebellion a glimmer of hope.
To the citizens of the galaxy, to the loyal soldiers of the Empire, and to the so-called rebellion, hear me now. The Emperor is dead. The Dark Lord of the Sith, too, has fallen. For many of you, this may seem like the end of an era, a moment of fear, or perhaps for some, a moment of misguided hope. Let me assure you, this is no end. It is merely the beginning. The rebellion believes that without the Emperor, the Empire will crumble, that chaos will ensue. They believe that the destruction of a single station will topple the order we have built across the stars. They are mistaken. They think victory is within their grasp. It is not. Order will remain. The Empire will endure. I, Grand Admiral Thrawn, now assume command. Under my leadership, the Empire will no longer rely on the brute force and overconfidence that led us to this moment. Instead, we shall become more than we were before, calculated, precise, and unstoppable. To the soldiers of the Empire, know that you fight not for the memory of a fallen emperor, but for a future of stability, of order. You will follow my command, and we will restore the glory of the Empire, piece by piece, until it is stronger than ever before. To the so-called Rebel Alliance, you may have won a battle, but you have lost the war. Your fleeting hope dies here, for I do not rely on super weapons or mysticism. I will dismantle you with strategy, precision, and intellect. I know your leaders, your tactics, your very essence, and one by one, I will hunt you down. I will break you. This galaxy has known chaos for too long. The rebellion is a disease, a wild, untamed chaos that seeks to disrupt the order we have fought to create. I am the cure. Under my command, the Empire will be the scalpel that cuts away the infection, and once more, the galaxy will know peace through discipline and control. The Emperor's reign is over, but the Empire lives on. I am Grand Admiral Thrawn. I am in command now, and soon the galaxy will kneel before the Empire's strength once again.